Hello and welcome to Telling Tinder Tales with me, Chris O'Neill.
And me, Thomasin Lockwood, live from Edinburgh Fringe. Chris, for anyone who's new to Edinburgh Fringe Festival, do you want to just explain briefly about the part that PBH Free Fringe plays?
Edinburgh Fringe, extraordinarily expensive place to come to as an act or indeed a human. So that's basically where PBH slots in, is we provide free spaces to perform for acts. Which is intended to substantially reduce the cost and the risk. And the flip side of that is that the acts are expected to allow people in to the show for free and ask for a donation at the end. It's sort of extensive indoor busking, essentially, is what we're at. It's called PBH because it's named after Peter Buckley Hill, who set up the thing, and it does trip off the tongue to call it Peter Buckley Hill Free Fringe. It's easier to call it PBH. So yes, that's it really, and it's going a long time, and it's very popular with acts and very unpopular with some other people who make a lot of money from acts.
Yeah, I think it's a great scheme. It really levels the playing field for people who are working class, both acts and audience members. So it's a great scheme. I read Peter Buckley Hill's book as well. Fascinating man, really fascinating hearing the history. I think PBH has been going on for like 25 years now. But enough of that, Peter. I would like to introduce you to our guest who is also called Peter.
Hello.
Peter, how are you?
Yeah, really good. I did a PBH show this morning. It was really grand. Yeah, fun audience.
Excellent. Tell us about yourself.
So my background is I work in theatre. I live in Liverpool. And up here I do horror stories, like storytelling shows. But my background is doing design for theatre shows. So sound design, lighting design for touring kind of theatre.
Wow, very different to internal busking then.
Some similarities, but yeah. Slightly different in terms of venue scale sometimes. But yeah, it's lovely to do it in front of like a really close-up audience like you can do here at the Free Fringe.
Yeah, it's really intimate. And I just think, I've never seen spookiness suit a city more. I've never seen rain and gloom. I'm like, spooky cozy. I love it. But when you're ready, Peter, we would love to hear your tale.
Okay. So this story begins with a breakup, which I won't go into, but I was in a very long-term serious relationship for almost 15 years. I've been with somebody since I was about 15, and I was turning 30, and we were breaking up. We had a house together, right? So we had to sort out all of that stuff, and they were getting married to somebody else quite quickly. So it was all, it was kind of a big thing, but that's not the story. That's the backstory that leads into this. So I had not really dated at all, properly for years, and the world has changed. There's all Tinder. There's lots of modern online dating and all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of thrown into it without much practice. And I hadn't really enjoyed much of it, to be honest. So I'd sort of disconnected from it slightly. Like, I didn't even feel like a year after this breakup that I was ready for anything romantic or sexual even with anybody. But one night I'm doing a show and I meet somebody in the bar afterwards. And I wasn't performing in this show. I'd done the design for it. And I meet this person by chance, in a way, or so she says, because somebody that she was meant to be meeting gets kicked out because he isn't wearing the right pants to fit into the theatre bar or something. So she was waiting for, some weird sort of contrived reason, right? That basically all of her friends and the people from the show had gone somewhere else, and it was just me and her in this bar, whereas everybody. And we sit down opposite each other, wondering what's going on. And she kind of fixes me with this, very deep sort of stare. She's got massive eyes. And I'm kind of like, oh, what's going on here, right? And she's incredibly attractive and very interesting. And she starts telling me all about this poetry show she's seen. She's got this little book, puts it into this, quirky bag that looks like it's kind of woven at home or made to look that way. And I'm kind of she's like a manic pixie dream girl, right, for me at this moment, right? Going through a terrible time. And she is this hippie-ish, kind of witchy, gothy, but very artistic sort of person. And she takes me next door to this trendy hipster bar where I feel incredibly old. And I feel like there might be a bit of an age gap between us. And she asks me, when were you born?
Oh.
Right? And she doesn't need to know for my age. She wants to know the specific date. Right? And I thought this was a star signs thing or something like that. I give my birthday, which is on the 11th of a month. And she says, oh, I was born on the 22nd. And there's this kind of like long silence where I'm trying to process that. I don't really know what that means. And she goes to tell me that basically double numbers are very important and all of this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Right, yeah, exactly right. Now, what I do need to say is this was kind of not the whole conversation. She was talking about art and culture and everything like this. And then a few of these things kind of came in there. So she got in that like, it's fate that we've met and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, oh, yeah, I just think we fancy each other and we're having a chat, you know? But she thought there was more to it. I didn't really understand the birthday thing. I was just saying like, oh, I just feel like I want to be in control of my own destiny. I don't want anything to be predetermined. But I'm really into her. So she tells me all about how she sold art on cruise ships. And she's explaining to me the art in this bar that we're in. And I'm kind of nodding because art's not really my strong point, like visual art. I'm just kind of going, yeah, that one's great, yeah. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to say something clever at some point. And so I try and flirt and I say, hey, why don't you show me? Why don't you try and sell me that painting? Yeah, I know. I thought that was smooth. I was not very smooth on this night, really, to be honest. But she does this like sexy Californian accent. She's like, oh my God, that painting would look like really sexy in your room. Why don't we hang in there now and see what it looks like? And I'm like, yeah, I know. I am like, oh my God, right? And you've got to understand why I put that backstory bit in. I hadn't met anybody. I hadn't even thought I could fancy anybody at this point. And I was just like, oh my God, perhaps I'm in love, right? And the only doubt in my mind at this point is like, I'm thinking the next time I have any sort of sexual chemistry with anybody, there's going to have to be some sort of art role play, or I'm just not going to be into it, right? That's the only thing I'm worried about. As the night progresses, we go outside of the bar and she starts again talking about destiny, fate, and all this kind of stuff. And I say, oh, what's better than a double number? And I flick up my watch and the time reads 1:11. Right? And this is like this huge moment where she grabs me, she embraces me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm alive. This is amazing. And I think this is going to go so well. We don't go back to anyone's that night because I'm crashing at my mum's that night because I'm selling the house to my ex, right? And she's just got back from traveling all around the world. So we make plans to have a date like in a day or so. And I'm really excited and work the next day, so much so that's getting on the nerves of everybody that I work with. Right? I'm just like, oh, I met this girl. Oh my God, she's amazing. And she texts me, and I think I'm going to wait to text her back at the right time. And I thought, she'll like this. I text her at 11:11. Now, I didn't understand the significance of this at this moment. When we meet up, the date is going brilliant. We're sat in this like wine bar. She's into jazz, and I've like read about jazz so I can try and not seem completely stupid. Right? But you do those sacrifices, don't you? When somebody's like incredibly attractive and you feel like an idiot, you're like, oh, I need to not seem stupid, right? So I'm there, and this is going really well. We're like a couple of hours in, and then she says, yeah, I know it's going to go well because of our connection. And I'm like, hang on, what connection? There's no divine connection. We just fancy each other. And she says, how do you explain this? And she reaches into her bag, produces the phone, and shows me the text at 11:11. And in that moment, I have like a kind of crisis because I think there's two ways this could go, right? One part of me is saying, just lean into it, right? Just go with it, right? Then you'll have to have kids called Zenith and Delezenia. You know, you'll have to birth them at home in a crystal bath, and we'll have to attend orgies around moon cycles, right? And I'm thinking, I could do that. I could do that for her, maybe. But I think I've got to come clean because where does this end? So I just say, look, I am really sorry. I text you at that specific time because I thought you'd like it because we had that moment last night. And she looks at me and she says, you can't mess with the numbers. And at this point, and again, like I do a lot of horror stories and stuff, but I'm not really actually spiritual myself. Like I've never seen a ghost or anything, but I felt like the energy drain from the room, right? Like a sepia tone comes over everything. She goes really quiet, and I'm like saying like I wasn't trying to take the piss because even though I'm not into any of these star signs or witchy stuff, like I didn't want to like mock her beliefs. I was basically just trying to play along in like a fun way, but this had gone completely wrong. And about 2 or 3 minutes later, where she's like, no, I'm okay, no, I'm fine. And she clearly wasn't. She just gets up and goes, I must go. And she just runs out of the date at that moment. And I just sat there just like, oh, what have I done? So that was my strange date.
Right.
Thank you, Peter. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was certainly surprising in every possible sense of the word. Yes. Right. I don't know where to begin. Paint. You mentioned the idea that art would for you to be excited by a sexual situation, you need to involve art.
Yes.
Has that transpired to be the case?
Definitely. No, I've never involved any paints or anything in the bedroom in the last few years, or easels or anything.
Wow. Well, maybe it was fate in a different way, and that she was there to show you that those feelings were going to come back at some point. You could still feel love and joy and chemistry again, and maybe for her she needed to learn to maybe rein it in a bit on the first date and not reveal things until a little bit, wait a bit to trust. My question is, on that first date, so you said how she was talking about lots of things and every now and again this stuff would come up. I'm just trying to understand, one, the ratio, and two, how she, is she like, so, what was it like growing up in Liverpool? It's fate that we've met. Some great exhibitions in there, like what?
I think that she got me in by being very charismatic, very sexy, very fun, very open, and then that stuff was slipped in a little bit. And I think she knew that she was in control of the situation, right? Like, I was not very sexually confident, like in my persona, because again, I hadn't really dated so much. But to be honest, after the show finished, I was chatting to her for hours and hours and hours, and I'd forgotten anybody else was in the room. She really did have this kind of charisma. So there was probably only 5 minutes of this stuff amongst 4 hours of talking about philosophy and art and culture and stuff that I, was interested in.
That's how Manson started. How did you feel about what she'd said about messing with the numbers?
Well, I did feel that in some way, if there is anything to the universe and power and numbers and all that kind of stuff, that I had screwed it up and I was forever cursed. And I did feel the weight of this on me for some time. She was really nice about it. She sent me a text the next day or something. She was like, "Oh, sorry, I was a bit weird. I'm just going through some stuff and finding myself and whatever." And, that all made sense to me. That's absolutely fine.
You said you felt cursed. Did you perhaps not feel you'd had a lucky escape?
Well, I guess I kind of plotted out my future being in some sort of number-themed cult and stuff. And I was kind of, in my fantasy, I was kind of okay with that for a while in my head. I think I missed out, to be honest. But what you said before, you said, did it open you up to having relationships again and stuff? I think it was a key step for me because she was very exciting and fun for me. And even though this wasn't going to work for obvious reasons, it probably awakened something in me to say, oh, you can go out, you can use Tinder, you can be out there, you can meet people and have fun. And I was able to do that maybe a few months after that. So it was pretty useful.
I think that's a great ending. I think you took the magic from her and she took the grounding from you. And that is fate, my friends. Peter, thank you very much. We'd love to hear more about the show that you've got going on here.
So I do some shows at the PBH that you were talking about before. Early every day, I do stories about childhood horror. So me and my friends used to break into the school attic when we were 7 to tell each other ghost stories and protect the musical instruments from the ghosts. So you can hear about that in Whistle Binkies at 12:30 every day. And I also have a show that involves a little bit of the stuff we talked about today. There's a few other strange dating things that I put together in a show called The Moonpack Trial, where I've mixed a little bit of that story with a show that I was cast in, and I'm still trying to figure out, was the show about an occult ritual, or was it an occult ritual disguised as a play? So I kind of put that date as part of that story in the middle. That show's called The Moonpack Trial, which is about witchcraft, sex cults, and wanky art for arty wankers. That is in the Banshee Labyrinth at 9:50 every night, apart from one day, which is the 11th. It's not on the 11th.
Double numbers.
Double numbers, yeah, you can't, yeah, exactly. I wanted to do it at 11:11, that slot was not available. But I brought this show, this is the first show I ever wrote, and it's when I first started doing horror stories, and it's a kind of comedy horror thing.
Fantastic.
Amazing. Oh, so can I plug the one final thing? I also do a double act with Lex house, which is called Monster Mystery Mansion, which for legal reasons is not Resident Evil live on stage, where the audience come and explore a haunted mansion, and it's like a D&D adventure. Every day it's different, but it's on at various times, so you just have to look that one up. But that's also in the Banshee in the cinema room, so we use the screen for all the video game stuff.
Superb. Thank you very much, Peter. I'm going to plug my own shows, and to hell with it. I feature on a lot of the podcasts, by the way, in case you're wondering why I'm here. I have the Full Irish at 11 o'clock every day in Binkies at 11, and that's been going now for 10 years, so it, I think, qualifies as an institution. It also happens to be excellent, and that's mainly because I know how to book very good acts. And that's one down, and the other one then is at 9:30 in the morning. If you are up early enough, we do a show called Political Breakfast, which is in Hot Toddy, and it's an interesting show run by myself and Harun Masood. I had an embarrassing moment today when I was in the middle of my gig and I was standing up, and someone made me laugh, and I had a mouthful of water, which I then sprayed across 4 audience members.
Those in the first few rows may get wet.
No, it was at the back, actually. The front were safe. Anyway, so that is the joy of the Edinburgh Fringe. You may suddenly have an indoor shower.
And I think on that note, let's
say goodbye.
Thank you,
goodbye.
Peter.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Bye-bye. See ya.
Bye.
Telling Tinder Tales is hosted and produced by me, Chris O'Neill, and Thomasin Lockwood. Produced and edited by Lucy Regan, with music by Kinkas Moreira. It's a Jester's Comedy Dublin production and is no way affiliated with or endorsed by Tinder. If you have a story to tell, please get in touch. Details are in the show notes. And if you like us, instead of swiping right, follow us on Instagram and or TikTok at Telling Tinder Tales.